Okay, what's up everyone? Dave here, Stands Everything. We are back in the garage and I'm actually reshooting the intro to this video because I shot the other one with a dirty lens. So I'm going to be hopping into a little bit of work. This video, what we're going to be knocking off is getting my drive shaft crossmember fabrication all done. So we are going to hit that box right there. At the end of the last video, I had my drive shaft in. It is in now. I bought the retaining kit to kind of keep it into the rear end there. And you can see that I have removed what was previously mounted here, which is my drive shaft crossmember. I was going to go underneath the truck and monkey around with everything underneath there to figure out where I had to put the hanger bearing bolt holes, and then I realized that that piece came off. So you can see that I've got it on the bench here. This goes around the carrier bearing, and I have measured everything out now. I'm going to be able to center that perfectly and then drill my holes and get everything good. And then once we have things drilled and tapped, we'll put this back in the truck and kind of slide things around, cycle the suspension, and figure out where exactly I want that carrier bearing to be based on the actual drive shaft we have and not just the measurements. So all that said, without further ado, what I'm going to do tonight is I am going to drill and tap those holes and then put things back in the truck and mock stuff up. The reason I say I am only going to be doing that tonight is because I was out racing this thing all weekend in Kingston, Ontario. We got back earlier today. I am a little bit tired and I am actually going racing again next weekend. So I really do have to get a couple videos done, a couple nights out in here so that I can edit everything and get these videos to you, because I'm still trying to get these things out every week. So this video might be a little bit shorter than expected. I don't think I'm going to be painting anything in this video because painting stuff on YouTube takes forever. But you're definitely going to see me finish up the fabrication and get this in. Truck's not going to be hitting the ground this video, but we're getting closer for sure. Alright, so pretty simple job. I just drilled and tapped this. It's bolted in now. It all feels nice and solid. I'll definitely put some washers on there, some lock washers on there when I do it for real. So I'm going to zing this apart now, put this bracket back on the carrier bearing, and then we can start moving everything around sort of as a unit and figure out where it is completely happy with sort of cycling through the suspension. I'm not going to drag the camera underneath the truck just yet. So I'll come back with everything sort of mocked up and we can start pulling things around and see how it goes. We've got the carrier bearing mounted now to the mock-up drive shaft crossmember. So you can see that everything is bolted together now. This is holding weight here. Everything seems to line up okay. I think now it's time to start cycling the suspension. So right now we are at full droop, which is as high as the truck can get, limited by my shocks. So I want to put the camera, I'm probably going to put it on this crossmember here so you can watch how much movement we have in here. Just make sure that everything works out with the suspension. Make sure that there's no binding of that slip yoke there. Provided there is no binding, I am going to double check these measurements here, make sure that I'm not interfering with sort of any holes that I have in the frame here. I do know that there is a hole here that I was originally using for mounting my bed, and there's another one right there. If I do end up covering a hole, I end up covering a hole, and I will drill another hole in the back of the bed there just to get everything mounted up. But I'm actually hoping that I can scoot this forward just a little bit more and avoid that hole, and then just put a hole in here. I'm also actually thinking that I might extend this. I'm actually probably going to do that, not tonight though. Extend this all the way to the end here just so it looks a little bit cleaner, and then I can put the hole in the center instead of off center. But you know, that's a lot of talking about things I'm going to be doing and not actually doing it. So let's put the camera on the crossmember and just see how everything works cycling the suspension. Okay, I've cycled the suspension and I'm pretty happy with how all of it works. You can see how that slip yoke goes in and out as the suspension goes up and down, and you can definitely see how when it moves, because I have that joint in there, it doesn't hit the back of the cab, which is exactly what I wanted. I jacked it up to pretty much air it out, and everything looks pretty solid. So I am going to perhaps call it for tonight. I might mess around with a couple more things. As I mentioned, I do want to kind of get this piece all the way to the end there, so I might look for some metal to make that happen. I might actually just end up putting a joint in here. I'm not sure. I'm going to find some metal to make it happen and figure out the best way to do that. And then when we come back in the next day of the video, I'm going to really focus on getting this nice and welded strong, not just tacked together. And then we can drill some holes and we can call this cross member pretty much done, and maybe even throw some paint on it. Okay, we're back, day 2 of finishing up my drive shaft cross member. I have removed it now to finish up welding the end plates to it. When I say end plates, I mean these pieces here that I'm using to get a nice sort of right angle at the end of this bar. And in the last portion, you might have noticed that I was a little bit upset with how much this overlapped on the frame. So this was a piece that I previously had on that side, and you can see that it came to here, and it ended up in a weird spot. It was kind of like halfway, just under halfway, and if I was going to put a mounting bolt, it would kind of hang off there if I wanted to do it nicely in the middle. Obviously this is just some angle iron that I've cut down, so I was able to find a bigger piece here. So this is what I'm using now. If you compare the two, you can see how much bigger this one is, and if I carry it over to the frame, that looks way better. It just looks like it's meant to be a proper mount. I could even round out the corners if I wanted to. It just looks quite a bit better. So I'm going to get more purchase in the center here. If I put it in the center of the bracket, it'll look good. It won't quite be centered with this hole, but it'll definitely be in the center of this bracket and the frame rail, and everything's just going to look a heck of a lot better. And it's also going to get me that right angle that I wanted. This is going to be strong. If you're wondering why I didn't just break a piece of metal myself instead of using pieces of angle iron, that is because my metal brake only goes up to 18 gauge. This is much thicker than that, and I did try and bend it last night. Didn't work very well. So that's why I'm going with this route here. So I'm going to put the camera on the tripod. We're going to hack off this end. I'm going to take it over to there, just fit it up, and then put it back, and then we'll do a bit of welding. And this should be nice and solid. Like I said, I did sort of tack this side down here just so I can make sure that everything's centered out when I do it. So yeah, let's hack this off, and then we'll just keep moving, get the new one on there, and then we'll be ready to go. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to end today's video a little bit early. My welder plug is no good, I guess, anymore. There's a bunch of flex in it, and it just kind of died and stopped welding, basically. So I guess I got to replace this. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that with what I've got going on this week, but I'll try and get it done. But yeah, this kind of sucks. So I'm going to sit and think about what I can do here. Maybe I have something around the house. I don't even think I have an end that I can use on this. But I'm going to see what I can do, and hopefully we'll be back welding soon. So let's see if day 3 goes a little bit better. Alright, we're on day 3 of this video. Sorry for the weird angle. My camera is low on battery, so I've got it plugged in, limiting my range a little bit. But that's okay, because we're going to be working on the bench for a little bit, because I need to fix my welding plug. So in the last time I was out here filming, my welder stopped working because the plug was no good. I had some loose prongs, so I went and picked up this, which is a universal end, and I'm going to try and jam it on the end of this this wire, and hopefully everything works out, because I really don't want to have to go buy a new welder. I don't think I'm going to have to buy a new one. I think this is going to do the trick.
I just got to make sure that I wire it up correctly so that I don't end up with an electrical fire or shock or anything crazy like that. So I'm just going to put the camera here so you can kind of see what I do. I'll talk about it sort of when I'm all done or during, depending on how it goes. And then hopefully we'll be welding some stuff before the end of this night, and we can get everything welded up and drilled in and mounted and all that stuff, because like I said, I got a busy week this week, so I only have a couple of hours out in the garage and I really want to get this done. Okay, so I've got this wired up now. It wasn't too bad. I did have to use my phone for a little bit to look something up. So this isn't a labeled cord. Well, in the traditional sense, or in the non-electrician sense, it isn't labeled. The only colored wire was the green one, but looking it up online, the ribbed wire, which if you look at it right there, it might be a little bit hard to see. There are some ribs on this. This is neutral. The green one is ground, and then the smooth one is the last hookup that you got to make. So everything is hooked up here. I'm gonna just slide the end piece over this, screw it all back together, and then hopefully we have a working welder again. You know, fingers crossed that this fixes the problem, because I really don't want to have to buy a new welder. Yeah, I'll get this put back together, and then we'll test this out, and hopefully we'll be back to welding. Alright, I am still plugged in. My camera, that is still plugged in, but we've got this set up here now. It looks like the plug's on there well. Let's see if she works. Sounds like we're back in business. I've got a good strong connection now, and we can get back to welding. So give me a couple minutes to reset everything back up for what I was doing, and then we'll burn this in, and then hopefully we'll be moving on to the next step, which will be on the truck, just fitting everything up and drilling some holes and making sure that we can mount this cross member. Alright, so my goal was to weld this well enough that I do not need to grind it down, and I can just paint it. I think I did an okay job. So this one is probably the worst of the two, with this one being a lot better. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it looks for what it's going to be. So I'm just going to scuff this down and then eventually paint it. I'm not going to paint it in this video. I have a very bad habit of painting things before they need paint, and then it makes it a big pain in the ass to work around. And I do want to run e-brake cables across the frame. My electric e-brake is on that side of the frame, and I do need to run a cable to here. And I think it just makes sense to follow the cross member that I'm building, have it come out there, and then down and around. At this point is how I'm going to attach it to the cross member. I don't know if I'm going to go through it. Part of me wants to go through it, part of me doesn't, because if I do have to remove the cross member, then that means I have to disconnect the e-brake, which is kind of annoying. So I might go around the back side of it. Either way, until I know exactly what I'm going to do there, I'm not going to paint that piece. But we're going to mock everything up so that we're very sure it all works, because I can do that, and it needs to be in place before I run the e-brake cables anyway. So the next step is going to be taking a couple measurements of this so I can put a hole right in the middle of each side. And then we just kind of carry through on mounting it there, and then I'll mount the carrier bearing back to this cross member, and then that'll likely be it for this video, because I would rather get a little bit done, edited, and out the door versus take on too much and then miss a week. So you see me drill a lot in this video, so let me just drill these holes, and then we'll come back to just me finishing up mounting it. Alright, so I figured I'd bring you back under the truck to just show everything kind of in place. So obviously this is my drive shaft here. You can see that, you know, I've got about an inch out here in this slip yoke. and then it comes through. We go down the drive shaft, and then we've got, here is my carrier bearing. It is mounted with a bolt here and one there, and then we've got the drive shaft cross member in place here. There's a bolt going through right there. I need to tighten it a little bit. It was a little bit close to another hole, but I think it's going to be okay. And you can see over here, you can get a little bit better of a shot. There's a few other holes going on there, but I was able to sort of put it in a nice spot where it's happy. I am going to get some longer hardware when I finally mount it. I'm pretty okay with how strong it's going to be. I feel like using this angle iron for this bracket here was a good move because it's going to be particularly strong. There isn't going to be a ton of weight on this anyway. There's going to be a lot of force, obviously. It's got to hold this bearing, and this is going to be spinning away underneath it. But there isn't really a lot of downward pressure on this. But it is pretty strong anyway. I did stand on it. It was all fine and good. Everything seemed to be pretty happy. You can see now that you know, my jack stands aren't holding the drive shaft anymore, so we're good. I am more than likely going to end up painting this drive shaft. It is raw and it will rust and look pretty crappy if I leave it, but that might be a later project. I'd really like to get moving on a few other things before I paint this, and I don't want to do any video of me painting it. You guys have definitely seen me paint more than enough stuff for a while, so if I do paint it, it's going to be off camera, probably just one weekend, one Saturday, maybe I'll get out and paint it. But let me hop outside of the truck and we'll chat a little bit more about what's next and what we accomplished in this video. So we're back topside, and we can take one final look at my drive shaft cross member. So you can see it is in place now. I just went with a single piece of hardware on either side. Again, I don't see a lot of crazy forces sort of pulling this in some crazy ways, and the way that this is notched here, it's not really going to twist anyway, but I will make sure to have a longer hardware in here with some lock nuts just to make sure that everything is nice and sturdy. It's not going anywhere. It's pretty firmly mounted in there. I feel confident with the welds holding it all in where it needs to be. Obviously during shakedown I'll go through and retorque everything afterwards, just make sure it's all happy. Come and look from the back here. Everything looks straight and nice and happy, or about as happy as everything can sort of be. So I am pretty stoked on sort of everything that's back here. It looks pretty good, you know, with everything that I've got going on. I'm pretty pumped on the drive shaft cross member. So now comes to the end of all of the videos, and we get to knock another thing off the list towards moving under its own power. Let's just throw a quick X in drive shaft cross member. I know it needs to be painted, but everything is ready right now that it could move under its own power right now if it were on the ground. And it had a tune and an exhaust. So those are the next couple things that I do need before I can start driving this thing around. I do need to save a little bit of cash up to get those two things done. They are not going to be the cheapest things in the world, so we're going to keep knocking off a couple more things in the next video. So once again, thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys are enjoying the progress so far. I'm pretty stoked with it. I definitely want to just keep plugging away and get as far as I can this season to hopefully drive this thing down the road before the snow comes. So thanks for watching this video. Give me a like, a share, a subscribe, a comment. I'd really like to see what some of you might think. Definitely let me know if you think I am going to have bad drive shaft angles. I do not. Everything seemed pretty good within that sort of 3-degree range that they tell you is recommended for drive shaft drive angles. Nothing looks too wonky, so I'm pretty pumped that everything's going to work out well there. So thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you next week with another one.